Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 87 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we are coming to you once again from the international headquarters of GSM Services right here in downtown Gastonia. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We have another great organization this week as we highlight the United Way of Gaston County. We have Andrea Stephens with us today. Andrea is the president of the organization. Andrea, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I guess we need to point out that this is officially the first repeat organization. United Way was our very first guest, but believe it or not, that was over 2 years ago.
Wow.
And a lot has happened and a lot has changed with United Way. I think we've had some repeat guests, but they were not with the same organization, or it was a different event that we were talking about. So, again, I appreciate you taking the time, Andrea, to come talk to us. And so we're just going to start. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself, anything that you would like to share.
So let's see. I moved to Gaston County a little more than 18 years ago. And my husband and I made this community our home. And shortly after being in Gaston County for about a year and a half, I decided to re-enter the workforce. And I began working for Gaston County Schools for a number of years. So prior to joining United Way, I had the pleasure of working in Gaston County Schools for nearly 18 years. And so Gaston County truly became our home in so many different ways. The people that we encountered through our work and community outreach opportunities. But I'm originally from a small town north of Raleigh, Franklinton, and left Franklinton, moved to Raleigh, attended North Carolina State University. And
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Where did you attend college?
The North Carolina State University.
Okay, just making sure.
Absolutely. And met my husband there, and so shortly after being married for a number of years, we moved to Gaston County.
Okay, very good. Well, listen, I appreciate you sharing that. I think our listeners like to get a little background on our guests. And so I would think that of all the programs we've had on, United Way is probably one of the more well-known organizations because it is it's local, but it's also a national, I guess it's worldwide organization, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So what can you tell us, just to give, maybe there's somebody out there who doesn't know much about United Way? Can you kind of just give us a quick description or summary of what is United Way of Gaston County, kind of what's the mission, and just, and then we can get into maybe a little more specifics about you and the organization. But what is the United Way and what does it do here locally?
So the United Way is a health and human services nonprofit organization. And globally, we are the organization that most communities run to when there is a crisis, when there's a need in terms of health and human services. And that's the same in Gaston County. The United Way's mission in Gaston County is to unite, to help and care for one another. And we do that in a number of ways. We've been around since, I would say, 70 years because we began as the Gastonia United Fund.
Right, I remember that.
And then the board.
I remember hearing that.
That's correct.
I wasn't around at the time.
I understand. So the board in 1972 decided they wanted to be a part of the statewide United Way mission. And so that's how we became the United Way of Gaston County. So we've been the United Way of Gaston County, so right at 51 years.
Okay, very good. So we didn't really touch on this initially, but how did you end up here at United Way of Gaston County as in the role as president?
So working in the school district gave me a countywide lens of the needs and opportunities in this community. Gaston County Schools serves students from Cherryville to Belmont, and so does the United Way of Gaston. And so that became attractive to me in a different way, my passion in giving back to the community. So the United Way, in some ways, has a footprint similar to the district, and it's service for all, regardless of your background, regardless of where you live. And so being able to give back on a larger scale was attractive to me.
So, yeah, full disclosure, I just finished a 7-year stint on the board of directors. So I was on the board when Andrea came on. And I also shout out to Nicole Burgess here at our office, who was a gigantic upgrade for the United Way. She took my our spot that we've been involved with United Way on and off for many years. And we do a campaign here at our company, and maybe we can get into when I say company campaign, maybe we may discuss that a little later. But so a lot's been going on in the last 2 years since we had United Way as a guest. So can you talk about, in general, some of the initiatives, programs, kind of what goes on, day to day, month to month, year to year, United Way, just some of the things that are going on there.
So I mentioned earlier that the United Way initially was the Greater United Gaston Fund, and at that time we served 11 nonprofit organizations. We raised money for 11 organizations in this community, and so today, through our campaign efforts, we raise funds for 21 nonprofit organizations. And so by partnering with companies like Gaston Sheet Metal Services and other corporate leaders in this community, as well as individuals, we raise funds to support programs through our partner agencies in the areas of education, health, and financial stability. So the 21 programs that we fund must fall in one of the categories of education, health, and financial stability. We're very proud of that. We're proud that people who work in the workforce can contribute to their neighbor, their friend, and whoever has a need through the United Way. So we're very proud of that. But we also have other initiatives that we fund, like the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. Okay. In 2011, the United Way of Gaston brought the affiliation of the Dolly Parton Imagination Library to this community. So Dolly Parton had this idea that she wanted to provide books for children in her hometown in Tennessee from birth to age 5. And that idea grew from Tennessee to multiple states across the country. So we're fortunate that the leadership in 2011 wanted to bring this notion of Dolly Parton Imagination Library to Gaston County. And essentially, we raise funds outside of our campaign to provide books for children. There are about 1,500 children enrolled now. And for $150, you can provide a book a month for a child that's age appropriate, birth to pre-K, birth to 5, for 5 years. And that's pretty remarkable because you're building the library of a child who may not have books in their home.
I mean, that boils down to, I remember when I was on the board, we did the math. It was cents per book, basically.
Correct.
It's not a big number for the impact. So, that's another example of, I think most people, before I was on the board, I thought, we gives money to 4 or 5 things, organizations, right? So at the risk of leaving out organizations, which I'm sure we will, what are some of the nonprofits that are supported here locally by the United Way?
So we fund 21 programs, and some of the organizations are the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, the Heart Society, Cancer Services. Then we also fund 5 crisis agencies like the Dallas High Shoal Christian Ministry, right, providing utility assistance and prescription assistance to families. Then there's Socks in Belmont, serving our community with kindness. We also fund a program in Cherville Crisis Ministry, that also has a thrift shop. And in Bessemer City, they also have a thrift shop, but also operate as a crisis ministry. Right. So those are some of the programs that we fund through the United Way.
Yeah, I appreciate you correcting me. You said programs, right? It's not actually, we're not just funding the organizations and the nonprofit organizations. Yeah, we are focused. United Way is focused. See, I'm still saying we, Andrea, after being involved for so long, kind of take it personal. But yeah, the organization is funding programs within those nonprofits. So that's very, we need to remember that, because so it's easy to see where the money's going and what's exactly the needs that are being provided for. So if I remember correctly, you're going on 9 months or so in the leadership there at the United Way. Can you talk about, in your time there, maybe does anything stand out to you as a success, or something maybe you're most proud of accomplishing? Even though it's been a short time, I know firsthand the positive things that have been going on there. So anything you can share for our listeners?
Well, I can say that we have a fantastic team at the United Way, and I'm proud of the work that our team does, but I'm also proud of the commitment the community has for this organization. We, as a board and as a staff, decided to do some agency tours. We began last fall, And we had an idea, let's visit as many of our United Way partner agencies as we could to go to their facilities, learn more about the programs we fund, but also learn more about maybe there's some other programs, there's some other initiatives that they're doing that we can help shed a highlight on and build some visibility for our agencies. So I would say in my first 8 to 9 months, I'm very proud of that we have visited more than half of our agencies, and our agency leaders have shared some really positive feedback from that. So I think that will help us as we move forward and look at other opportunities at United Way.
How about you give a shout out to the staff before I forget? So who all is on the staff now? And because I know it's grown,
right?
And since you've been there.
So Summer Saunders is our resource development campaign and fund development manager. So she has the responsibility of helping to raise funds, and I work very closely with Summer. She began her journey at United Way in December. Then Tara Morrow is campaign and community impact manager, and Tara is tasked with working with our agency leaders and finding other initiatives that we can do from a community impact standpoint. In fact, she's going to a caregiver fair on this coming Saturday to share and learn more about senior services, but share what we do for senior citizens in our community. Janet Lemire is our finance associate. Janet is in her 6th year at United Way, and she has a dual responsibility. She leads our finance efforts, but she also has some community impact portion of her job responsibilities. And then Jennifer Grant is our finance administrator, who has been at United Way for 11 years.
Yeah, a long time. Mm-hmm. I know, and I was fortunate enough. Well, I was fortunate. I'm not sure about United Way. Was fortunate enough to be the finance chair, so I got to work really closely with Jennifer and Janet, and really just two individuals that really care deeply about our community. But you know what? The whole team over there is terrific, and just when I left the board, I really just felt like the organization was in such a good place. So are there any other initiatives? I kind of cut you off when you were talking about initiatives outside of just the nonprofits that the organization supports. So one other one that I remember that some people might see, it gets a little pressure around Christmas time. Is it what's it called now? Senior Christmas Wishes.
Senior Christmas Wishes, exactly. Yeah, I'm very proud of this program. So the board in 21 decided to shift from a countywide senior generic wishes to more just focusing on senior citizens and needs. And so in 21, we served about 90 senior citizens during the holiday season, whether it be food or a gift. So the senior citizen completes the application, and they get to request a want, a need, or a read. And so from 21, serving 90 seniors, to this past holiday season, we served more than 255. We see that the program will continue to grow because people are living longer, and we want to do what we can during the holiday season to help them stretch their bank account, because they have needs outside of their utilities and things of that nature.
And kind of, is it fair to say that we saw that kind of expand to maybe post-COVID?
Correct.
With because then I know where the organization is located, where some of the homeless initiatives that we see around the area. I mean, all of that has just seemed to, the need to just expand. And so many organizations that we've talked to in the last 2 years have kind of shared the same thing. COVID has caused, or I'm not sure that's the right word, but coming out of COVID, there are just some areas that just haven't recovered like other areas. And some of that is some of the needs around our community in general. Is that a fair statement, that what you are seeing as well?
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. When people are in crisis, sometimes they don't really know where to turn, and that's whether you're a senior citizen or you're a young adult. And so what we're seeing coming out of COVID, people are still in crisis, and they don't really know where to go. And quite often they'll contact the United Way, and we try to direct them to a resource.
Okay, very good. So I hope our listeners out there heard this, a lot of things. Again, I think when I was younger, I remember United Way was associated with like NFL football. It seemed like that was it was always a big part of that. But I maybe knew one or two things United Way was involved with, but it's such a broader, especially here in Gaston County, it's just a broader range of initiatives and programs and things that you guys are supporting and doing. So looking ahead, the next, that classic question is next 5 to 10 years or whatever, but looking ahead over the next few years, is there anything coming down the pike that's big, anything that you can share, or how do you see the future of the organization kind of playing out over the next few years? And then maybe the next question would be any big events or anything coming up as well.
Stephen, I will tell you one of the things that we've done already in just the last 60 days is reinvigorated our youth council.
Okay.
So the United Way had a very active youth council many years ago. So we've had our first meeting, and we work with high school counselors across the county to identify leaders who might be interested in learning about the United Way and working to build a project that they own that's beneficial to this community. So we've already had our first meeting. We'll meet again next month. 21 young people in this community across the county. And in a short period of time, in our very first meeting, they identified disability services as an awareness area that they want to find some way to support and bring awareness to this community. So we're excited about that. And we see that as a part of the future of the United Way. And our youth council members will, in some degree, serve as ambassadors as we move forward and work with them and help them understand our mission and educate them on the agencies and the programs that we fund.
I assume these are high school students. What age range? Or
high school students, 10th and 11th graders.
Okay, very good. Yeah, that's anything we can do to get high school, even middle school in some situations, but high school students engaged with helping the community, philanthropy, whatever the case may be, because I know I was not really exposed to that when I was in high school. I mean, we had a Interact Club and Key Club, maybe. One was, but yeah, we were at that age, at that time, it was not really doing what it was designed to do. But I know young people today are much more in tune to that than I was at that age.
They want to be involved.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, what about any events coming up, or what's next on the agenda here for United Way here locally?
So we operate on a fiscal year. So we're wrapping up our fiscal year, and then July 1, we'll get ready to kick off our 23-24 workplace campaign. So right now, our team is in the process of getting some planning efforts. One of the things that we are looking to do July 1 is to have a training for all of our workplace campaign employee coordinators to equip them with more information about our successes from the previous year and how we can help them going forward. So that's something that our team is excited about right now. That's what's ahead. Again, we'll continue to expand our youth council efforts for next year. And also we're looking to share the spotlight to highlight some of our agencies and the people that they serve. We feel that our partner agencies really need to be the ones in the spotlight and that help our community understand that they're connected to United Way. So that's kind of what we have ahead right now.
Yeah, that's where what's the phrase? That's where the boots are on the ground, right?
Correct.
And the face-to-face work and the real work is being done. So, Andrea, I appreciate you sharing that. Remember, this is a podcast about Gaston County and the good things happening in and around Gaston County. And you've already answered this question kind of multiple ways, but I'm going to make you answer this question anyway. So, why would you say Gaston County in general is better off because United Way is here?
Well, I think that communities need healthy businesses like Gaston Sheet Metal Services, but they also need healthy nonprofits. And I think having a United Way in Gaston County helps our nonprofit sector be healthier. And so that helps our community as a whole. So healthy business, healthy nonprofits, healthy government. I think it helps the entire community.
Okay, yeah, there's no question. And of course, I'm a total homer for the United Way, and I'm totally biased in it. But I've been fortunate to see firsthand the work that United Way does. So I appreciate that, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. So before we move on, is there anything I haven't asked, I should have asked, anything you'd like to share? Now, before we finish, we'll make sure that our listeners know how to find more information out, volunteer, how to donate. Just we'll make sure that's kind of the last thing that we cover before we finish out the episode. But anything I haven't asked or that I should have?
I just want to shout out our corporate leaders who lead workplace campaigns on our behalf for the programs that we fund. It's vital to this community, and it's vital to the people who are needing to keep their lights on. It's vital for the citizen who may have food insecurity. So I just want to shout that out, and the importance of workplace campaigns really do help people keep their utilities going, and it keeps food on the table.
Okay, that's really good. I'm glad you said that, because there is this, I think, nationally, seems to be a push more to go more toward individual fundraising, and that is a super important part of, frankly, all nonprofit fundraising probably, and organizations like United Way. But here, at least in our county, the workplace campaign still is am I correct? That's still by far the biggest portion of the fundraising.
That is correct.
On the annual campaign. Yeah. So if there's any businesses out there listening, any business owners or team members in businesses that don't currently run a United Way campaign, it's a really simple process, frankly. I know the staff or anybody wants to give me a call. If we run a campaign here, we'd be happy to help get that started. And I know that the Andrea's team would be happy to come out and talk to you. Mm-hmm. And again, that's just a big part of it. I mean, there's also, again, individual donors are a big part of United Way here locally as well. But to her point, yeah, that's how so many organizations and so many individuals are really helped with that. So again, keep that in mind. So again, we're going to shift gears here briefly, and I'm not sure Andrea has any idea these next questions, because apparently she didn't review the questions that we sent her beforehand, which is even better. But we have this round of questions that we, because this is about Gaston County, and sometimes we talk about some topics that can be, frankly, they can be pretty serious, and we like to lighten it up a little bit. So we're going to call this the, Andrea's daughter is a fantastic volleyball player, speed round of questions.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's
go.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
This is really what the team at United Way, your family, everybody that knows you, this is what they really want to know about you.
Oh,
okay?
wow.
So what is your favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
So I'm really simple. I'm just a regular chocolate ice cream. Yeah,
I am too.
Really simple.
Sundrop or Cheerwine?
Cheerwine.
Excellent. Favorite local restaurant?
So locally, I like Hillbillies.
I don't know that we've had that as an answer yet in 86 other episodes.
I like their baked beans. I love their
Hillbillies is good. I mean,
coleslaw that's homemade. It's fantastic.
The new location there in Lowell. So yeah, well done. So how about favorite outdoor activity in Gaston County, or favorite park, or something you like to do?
So on occasion, I like to hike Crowder's Mountain.
Yeah,
on occasion.
Crowder's is great.
Yeah.
It's not a daily thing?
Not a daily thing.
All right. I've been waiting for a long time to ask this question of somebody who I already know has the correct answer. UNC Duke or NC State?
Oh, NC State.
That's what I'm talking about, Naomi.
Every day, all day.
Yes. Man. Whew. Yes. So, Andrea, what is something very few people know about you?
Let's see. I was a cheerleader in high school.
Okay.
And I played the clarinet for a very long time.
But you don't any longer?
No. Once I went to college, you just kind of lose the art.
Yeah.
Or the time.
That's interesting. You're correct. I did not know either one of those.
Yeah.
So how about a recent book or blog or article or something that you've read or something you can share that might be worthwhile for our listeners?
I'm currently not really reading anything right now, but I'm exploring a couple books that I'm thinking about reading. I would say, let's see.
Or a podcast that you listen to? Or?
I do like Craig Groeschel.
Okay.
He is pastor of Life Church, and he is the facilitator for the Global Leadership Summit. And I began attending the summit in 2018, and I don't think I've missed a year since. He has a leadership podcast that I really do enjoy because it's simple. He provides a leader guide at no cost that's downloadable, and often he provides a quote or a book that you can carry with you. So I do like Craig Groeschel.
So yeah, we are trying to get Sharon and Ray on to talk about the Global Leadership Summit here coming up in August. So maybe we can get some more detail about that. So I appreciate you sharing that. So we appreciate you indulging us on those Gaston County related questions. And so Couple more, and then we'll finish up this episode. So, Andrea, again, remembering this is a podcast about Gaston County and why it's such a great place. So besides the United Way, why would you say Gaston County is such a great place?
So I mentioned earlier, I grew up in a small town, and Gaston, although it's not a small town, gives a small town feel. And so it's a great place because you can get to know your neighbor, or you can get involved in your community and truly serve in so many ways. And I do like that. And sometimes you don't get that in a large city. And I think Gaston's a great place. You have the outdoors, you have great restaurants, and overall I think it's great people and it's a great community. It served my family well. Yeah,
it's very unique. I mean, it's a landlocked county, but mountains close to and we have a mountain here, rather not big compared to other mountains, but the lakes, close to the mountains, close to the beach. Yeah, it's a really unique and great place. So I think I say this every episode, don't I, Naomi? This is my favorite question. So knowing what you know now, Andrea, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
So for me, I'm not really proud of this, but it's the truth. I'm not a risk taker. And I think I would tell my 20-year-old self to have the courage to take risk every now and then.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it, that some of those things that I don't personally have any like big regrets. However, there were some small things that looking back said, why in the world did I not do that or try that or whatever. So some things seem such a big deal when you're 20 that just weren't,
Yeah.
But you kind of took a risk 8 or 9 months ago.
I did. And I think that it was a good decision. It gave me an opportunity to step into a leadership role, to do something different in the community and give back in a different way. And I'm proud about that. I really am.
Yeah. And listen, the community's better for it.
Thank you.
All right. So I appreciate that and those answers. And so listen, this has been terrific. So again, the main point here is to bring awareness to United Way. Maybe there's somebody listening. Maybe there's someone that works at a company who doesn't currently have a campaign, and we'll learn a little bit about United Way. And again, all that is what's required. So where can listeners go to learn more about the organization, find out about events maybe coming up, or donate, or just please anything and everything you can share there?
I would direct listeners to our website, unitedwaygaston.org. They can email myself at astevens@unitedwaygaston, or contact Summer Saunders, who is our campaign and donor relations manager. But also follow us on Facebook, United Way Gaston County. Follow us on LinkedIn. And we have done a really good job since I've been here, keeping our social media up to date and just really trying to blast out what we have going on and what's ahead. So definitely LinkedIn, Facebook are ways to stay connected about United with Gaston.
Okay, what about there's 2 events I just thought of that one just occurred.
Right.
So Purse Power, which is an annual event that occurs, I guess, this spring. We're recording this, what's today? April 17th. So was it 2 weeks ago?
2-3 weeks ago.
2 or 3 weeks ago.
Right.
That's a big event. And it looked like it raised $27,000.
Correct.
Wow. Terrific. And an event I've been involved with since its start was Jingle Bell Gents, which is typically the first Tuesday
in December.
So that's another opportunity for some very specific, one day fundraising event to support all the initiatives for United Way. So before we close this one out, I'll do my own little book or thought recommendations and book recommendations. Any last words of wisdom, Andrea, before we finish this one out?
I think my last words would be community is important, service is important, leadership is important. And I would say to listeners, if you are thinking about whether it's serving on a committee, serving on a board, or getting involved in the nonprofit programs that we fund or any other nonprofit, do listen to that inner voice that's guiding you on that, because it's so important. We need everyone, because this is the United Way of Gaston County, and this is the Gaston County community, and it takes everyone to make us great. So thank you.
Yeah, again, I appreciate that and agree. And I have seen a shift over the past few years. I've been involved in the community now 22, 23 years intentionally or specifically, and I have seen a shift with a lot of, newer faces. Mm-hmm. You're getting involved in an organization like United Way, and listen, that's what it takes. Our community is not the same as it was 25, 30 years ago, And so we need that fresh ideas and those fresh faces and individuals who, frankly, have better ideas than this old guy, sitting here. I mean, so it's time for that. So I appreciate that greatly. So as usual, I'm going to finish up with my own book recommendation and kind of a thought for the week. And the book recommendation is actually a book that was written in 1937 by a gentleman named Emmett Fox. It's called Sparks of Truth, and it's a collection of his lectures and meditations. So it's just one that's super short, but I can't remember who recommended it to me or where I heard about it, but it's one I read in the last 6 months. But it was a super short read, but a good, maybe I would call it a spiritual book because of the type of information in it. But again, I think it's worth a quick read. And my quote or thought for the week is intentional because I had Andrea here, and this is kind of maybe something that I think about when I think of Andrea and the work she's done in the community, not just with United Way, but with the school system as well. And frankly, the fact that she's a Wolfpacker, which is really all anybody needs to know about her character. So Sheryl Sandberg said, "Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence." So for me, there's so many things we're involved with is about leadership. Most good things that happen is about leadership, and frankly, when things don't go so well, it's typically about leadership as well. But I really like that quote from Sheryl Sandberg, and she's a thought leader too. If you want to look her up, you can find her online, and there's a lot more the content that she has besides that. So again, leadership is so important in so many things that we do. So to our listeners out there, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. Please spread the word if you can about the podcast, and please don't hesitate to contact us here at podcast@gastonsgreat.com. That's our email address. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please follow us on all our social media platforms. And as Naomi reminds me, please give us a good 5-star rating. That helps us get noticed. Thanks again to Andrea Stephens for being our guest today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Naomi Hunt and Amy Anderson from GSM Services and edited here locally by the Sumner Group. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.